Hello, everybody, and welcome to Meal Solutions Mondays. For this series of Meal Solutions Mondays, we are doing flyer to fork, which means we are bringing affordability to your table, trying to give you some recipe ideas. Today, I'm going to talk through the meal deal, which is our meatloaf Parmesan sub. My name is Joni Rampolla, one of the registered licensed dietitians with your Giant and Martin's. All right, so what is flyer to fork? If you've been with us a while, you probably have seen some flyer to forks, but if you're new, want to just go through and explain it again. So flyer to fork is what we call where we take our flyer, sometimes called the circular, the flyer, or in our app or online, it's called the weekly ad. It's what's on sale this week, bringing affordability to you. So the dietitian team, we take that weekly flyer or the weekly ad or the circular, we find something fun to make to bring affordability to your table with what's on sale this week. So I chose this week's meal deal, and the meal deal is a meatball Parmesan sub. So I don't necessarily have a recipe that I'm following today. I'm just going to talk through some ideas and inspiration to give you some ideas of what to do with those ingredients, maybe even outside of just a meatball Parmesan sub. So, how do you find the weekly ad or the flyer or the circular? Some people are lucky enough to get that in their mailbox. If you walk in any of our stores right around the front entrance, you'll find that weekly ad or the circular or the flyer. It's also on our website if you're shopping from home, right? So whether you're at martinsfoods.com or giantfoodstores.com, you can find it there on our website. Weekly ad is a tab, and then you can go through it there. It's also in the app. If you have the app on your phone, you can find it there as well. So this is what it looks like. And I'm looking at like the left half is the weekly ad. And you could choose in grid view, which just gives you a listing of items, or you could choose print view. Then it looks exactly like it does if you pick up the flyer in our store. So on the right-hand side, I have what a Thursday view would look like. And I keep forgetting to get an updated Thursday view, but our ads run Friday to Friday. So there's a new ad that comes out every Friday. Thursday is the only day you can see both ads. So the current week that ends on that Thursday, and then the one that starts the following day or Friday. So you can look at both. So if you're at a Thursday and you're shopping for Friday, you can pull up that ad to see what is on sale. And just know prices and availability may vary according to the store or your shopping method. Then if you're on your app, so this happens to be my app, my personal view, but if you look at the very bottom, I am at the home page. If you about midway through there, right below where it tells you your current choice points, you could see view the weekly ad. You could click on it there. Also, you could go to the Save tab and find the weekly ad there. So it's a couple places inside your app. So then when I look at and find what's on sale, I like to take those items and put them into Savory, which is our recipe site. And you can also get to Savory through giantfoodstores.com or martinsfoods.com. There's a recipe tab. Clicking on that brings you to Savory. Savory is the magazine that some of you may find in store, or it's also online to bring great inspiration. So since the meal deal was a meatball Parmesan sub, that's what I searched for. I put in meatball parm sub, and you see I came up with 196 results. So you can pick whichever ones resonate with you or feel right for you. Look at recipes. If you look at the red bars, there's an advanced filter. You can actually filter by guiding stars. So guiding stars can help you find recipes that are either 1 star is good nutritional value, 2 stars is a better nutritional value, and 3 stars is the best nutritional value. So this is this week's meal deal. You buy this, you get that free. So to buy this, you must buy 2 packs of meatballs. And here they're showing 2 different packs. One has 12 meatballs per pack. They're a little bit smaller. One is 8 meatballs per pack. They're a little bit larger. Both meatballs have cheese in them. One has mozzarella, one has Parmesan, but they both have cheese, delicious meatballs. You pick the size that you want. When you buy 2 packs, you get a sauce, steak rolls, and you pick your kind of cheese. There are lots of different cheeses and sauces to choose from, but this is the weekly meal deal. So I was hoping to bring you different meal ideas using the meal deal ingredients. So for example, buying 2 packs of meatballs to me is a lot of meatballs and may not get eaten in one meal, right? So what do I do for the other meals if I didn't want the same exact thing? Well, maybe I can take those meatballs and put them over spaghetti or zucchini noodles and have that. I can cut my sub roll into 3 equal pieces to create little sliders. Then I can add some vegetables to it, top with lettuce, mushroom, peppers, onions. I can use the sub roll itself to make garlic bread or croutons to go with a meal or over a salad. Just some different ideas of ways to use it that maybe isn't a meatball Parmesan sub. So today I'm going to show you 3 different ways to make those ingredients with meatball Parmesan meal deal. 3 different ways. One is an open-faced meatball toast topped with mushroom, bell peppers, and onions. The second is a simple meatball stuffed shell. And the third is meatballs over a salad with croutons that I made myself from a sub roll. So today I'm not actually cooking things. I'm just showing you, I'm assembling some things, showing you what you can do, help give you some recipe inspiration. So the first one is the open face meatball toast is what they're calling it. And you will get this presentation after this class. So I'm putting in the links to open up the meatball toasts on Giant or the meatball toasts on Martin. So you have that. This recipe uses or calls for Texas toast. We're not using Texas toast. I took my sub roll and I cut it in half. And I'm calling half of a sub roll is going to be my open-faced meatball toast. So that is different. This recipe also called for frozen meatballs. When I'm using frozen meatballs, they are already cooked. So the recipe tells you to just heat them up in the microwave. Our meatballs are not already cooked, right? They're whole meat just formed. So we have to cook our meatballs before we do this recipe. You can't just warm them up. So how you cook your meatballs, you can make skillet. You can put them in a skillet and roll them around till they're cooking. You can pop them in your oven and cook them on a sheet pan. That way, or you can plop them in your sauce and cook them in sauce. However you choose to cook your meatballs, they need to be fully cooked before you start this recipe. And then you put some sauce on the roll. Your meatballs, you cut them in half, put them on the roll once they're cooked, sprinkle with cheese, and then just heat it up in the oven so that the cheese gets nice and melty. The bread is toasted ahead of time and it becomes a delicious entree. The second one I'm going to demonstrate for you is simple meatball stuffed shells. So again, here is the link to the recipe on Savory with Giant and with Martin's. And what this is you take the jumbo shells and you're going to cook them up ahead of time. This recipe actually uses the exact brand of meatball that we bought for the meal deal. It's the smaller meatballs that the recipe is calling for. Some ricotta cheese, and then the sauce. So what you do is you take a scoop of ricotta cheese. I mix mine with a little bit of Parmesan cheese in there, put it in the shell, put your cooked meatball in there, then in a skillet, put down some sauce, put your stuffed shells, top it off with some additional pasta sauce, and then you can just heat it up in a skillet that way. When it's done, some nice basil, as this picture shows, would be absolutely delightful. And then salad. Sometimes I just want a lighter meal, so I made a salad and I'm going to put some meatballs on it and then also made croutons to put on that salad. So I took my sub roll, preheated the oven. I cut the bread into about half-inch cubes. I added bread to a baking sheet, tossed with oil, Parmesan cheese, and I actually took a little bit of Italian dressing, put that in there too, just to give it a little more seasoning rather than adding salt and pepper. And then I bake them. And then I now have them done next to me, and I'll show you what it looks like. We can add the meatballs, the pasta sauce, and also croutons to a salad. So these are the items that I bought in this week's meal deal. I happen to choose smaller meatballs and bigger meatballs because I thought the way, if I have a sub, I want a bigger meatball. If I put it on pasta, I want a bigger meatball. But then the stuffed shells, I need a smaller meatball. The toast, I need a smaller meatball. So I bought both of them. But then you get for free the sauce, the steak roll. And I chose mozzarella cheese, but it could really be, the options are like provolone and cheddar and American. You have lots of cheese options and lots of different flavor sauces, but I chose the marinara. That's why I put that picture there. And then what I bought in addition, these are the ingredients for the recipe that I'm using that I also have. So ricotta cheese, a bell pepper and onion, some Parmesan, some fresh basil. And one of my favorite that is also on sale this week is the Nature's Promise greenhouse grown crunchy green leaf lettuce. So all of the Nature Promise greenhouse grown, I love them. They are grown hydroponically, which means outside of soil. They're in a controlled environment. No human hands or soil touches them. So you don't need pesticides or things like that on them. Great product. And some of our mushrooms. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute and talk through some of the items that I did for the meal deal. Great. So first, I just did straight up spaghetti. I have my spaghetti and meatballs. I'm going to pour sauce on this, sprinkle of cheese, and that is my meal. And to go with it, let me just pull this down a little bit. I made some garlic bread. So I cut up a sub roll into slices and then melted butter along with some fresh minced garlic and then stuck that in the oven. So I know there's no sauce on here. It doesn't look great without sauce, but meatballs, sauce, and this is one meal that I can do with my meal deal. Oops, let me put that aside. And then this is the start of my meatball stuffed shells. So I had my pasta cooked like this. I just have ricotta cheese. And I actually had a little bowl that I put a little bit of Parmesan and ricotta cheese together. But basically, I'm just taking a spoon, sticking the cheese in there, just like a spoonful. Putting a meatball in there. And then I'm going to stick it in my pan. Let me just put my camera down, make it easier. And then I'm going to top it with sauce, right? So the bottom of the pan, I took sauce and I mixed a little bit of ricotta cheese in the sauce for the very bottom. So you'll see the sauce is a little bit more or less orangey because there's some cheese in it. I put the leftover cheese in it. And this one, I'm now going to top it. I'm going to put my screen down so you can see what I'm doing here. And I am just going to top it with some sauce. And then this can cook right in a fry pan. It just gets heated up because my meatballs are cooked, my pasta is cooked, just needs to be warmed. And then once that is on the stove and warmed up, then I will throw some basil on it. So I just have Nature's Promise basil. I cut some of it up, make it a little bit smaller, throw it around, and you put the basil on after it cooks, not before. And I know I didn't cook it yet, but just showing you what that looks like. It makes a beautiful dish, nice presentation. That is one meal. Next is my salad. I just made a salad, and I am going to top that. I cooked some meatballs in sauce. So here are two of the meatballs. And I am just going to put the warm meatballs right there on my salad. And then I took my sub roll and I made little croutons just with the recipe that you saw. And we can put that around on my salad. And this just makes for a lighter meal. And then the meal deal comes with mozzarella cheese. I took a kitchen knife and just cut strips in my mozzarella. And this is what I ended up with. Just these cute little strips. And I'm just going to put them on top of my meatball. Oops. And that could be just a nice lunch or dinner, just a lighter meal. And then the next option we have here is going to be the toast. Oh, you know what? I didn't show you the actual meatballs. So I only cooked half a package, but this is the larger meatballs. If you want to see the package up close. And then this is the smaller meatballs. Looks a little blurry there. So this is toast. I just took one piece of bread and I toasted it in the oven. And then I'm going to take my sauce and I'm going to spread some sauce on it. And then I had stuck in a fry pan just some mushrooms. I love our diced onions just because I hate cutting an onion. If I'm going to dice it, I always buy them already made. And a yellow bell pepper. So this is all of them combined because I just want a little bit more veggies in what I do. So I'm just going to put a little bit of veggies in there. And then my meatballs. So I cut meatballs in half. And then I'm going to just put the halves face up on the toast. See if I can get 4 in there. And then I'll probably do some cheese shreds over that as well. So I'm going back to the shredded mozzarella. Oops. And if I want a little more sauce on top, we can add that too. Keep it just a little bit more saucy, more flavored. Oops, got a basil on my spoon. And then that just gets popped in the oven to retoast. It's all cooked. It just needs to be toasted. And again, when it comes out, a little bit of basil would be a great thing to do. And just saying the fresh herbs and spices have a lot of good flavor and antioxidants to it. So this is a cute little lunch. Whoops. Cute little lunch once it all melts. Melt the cheese on it, and just a nice little toasty option. And any of them, I like to add a vegetable to. So this is just my salad. I can add croutons to my salad. I can have side breadsticks to use up my sub rolls. Just how do you elevate a meal? The first way to elevate it, to make it balanced, is to include more vegetables. And that's always what I'm encouraging you to do. So for the meal deal, you can make your Parmesan sub, and comes with the steak rolls. So I had some of the steak rolls that I made into croutons or garlic bread, which are great to go with many different things. And I hope we gave you some ideas to buy the meal deal. If you have leftover meatballs or you have leftover steak rolls or leftover cheese, how can you make a meal of it? And that's what I wanted to do, is just bring you some inspiration of meals that you can make with our meal deal. And of course, there's always a Parmesan sub, right? That's always one that we can do. Maybe I should just make a sub and alongside my sub, have the side salad. So to make your sub, you just open up your roll. They're already pre-cut. I love that. You stick in your meatballs, sauce, and cheese. Already cooked meatballs, not raw. And I am going to stick this in the oven as well. So lots of ideas for a delicious meal, or 2 or 3, right? These will probably last a while. But I'm going to share my screen one more time. Just to let you know what is coming up for the remainder of this week. Tomorrow is Fresh Finds with Shayna. She's doing a cranberry mocktail. On Wednesday, Living Well with Jenna, discussing weight management. On Thursday, Behind the Brand with Jenna, Blue Zones Kitchen. And you should have seen them with me before. Great brand, something fun to think about. And I thank you so much for joining me. Hope that I gave you some inspiration here for this meal deal, and hope your days are filled with warmth and happiness, sharing a meal with loved ones. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing, and we will go through and answer some of the questions.